Recently, videos of the J-36 attack aircraft produced in China have appeared on social media. This time there are many differences from the first test flight at the end of last year. The speed and movements demonstrated by the J-36 this time are impressive while the bottom landing gear is retracted. The aircraft must maintain a stable speed to ensure the hydraulic electronic control device of landing gear is not damaged, and it might need to facilitate an emergency landing in a sudden situation. It showed the J-36 test flight entering a new stage. The second difference is that there is no J-20 accompanying the entire flight test this time. Because the J-36 adopts a 3-stealth delta flying wing layout. This is innovative in the history of military aircraft design. The absence of J-20 tracking and observation means that the reliability and stability of the J-36 aircraft have been assured, and it has reached a new milestone of implementation. The J-36 is probably currently using the most stable and reliable WS-10 engine of the Chinese Air Force. After all, the WS-10 is an old engine for more than 20 years, and the WS-10C has also been widely equipped by the J-20. The J-36 breaks the history of the world's fighter power system having only 1 or 2 engines. Compared with dual engines, 3 engines not only greatly increase the thrust speed of the fighter, but also allow the fighter to obtain a more sufficient power supply. The shocking picture, the appearance of the huge J-36 made the Pentagon of the U.S. Department of Defense exclaim, because the J-36 may be twice as big as the J-20. It is said that the Pentagon considers the J-36 to be a new generation of advanced air superiority fighter rather than a fighter bomber, indicating that the huge J-36 can carry more fuel than any fighter in the world. Therefore, the Department of Defense has drawn a preliminary conclusion that the aerial refueling combat radius covers Pearl Harbor. Pete Hegseth, the 29th Secretary of Defense of the USA, once said be prepared for withdrawing from the competition for 6th-generation fighter jets. His current main work is on the internal reform of the U.S. military and Mexican border issues. If that is what he truly meant, the Chinese military's cutting-edge air superiority will enable China to gain enough strength to change the regional power structure. China's increasingly advanced capabilities such as stealth drones, combined with amplification of future technological advantages, may force the United States to reevaluate and plan its future Air Force development. Reuters, the world's largest multimedia news provider, reported on March 21, 2025. Trump picks Boeing over Lockheed for fighter jet contract. Trump restarted the U.S. 6th-generation aircraft NGAD project, and Boeing defeated Lockheed Martin to obtain an order for F-47 fighter jets. Different from the RNMD of 5th-generation fighter jets, this time the United States adopted a single unilateral funding method, allowing Boeing to monopolize the research and development plus survival of future fighter jets. This is equivalent to handing over future air supremacy of the United States to a private company. It is obvious that Trump, who vowed to clean up the Washington swamp during the election process, has completely surrendered to the American oligarchs, deep states and military-industrial complex. The United States does not have the ability to support the RNMD projects of 2 6th-generation fighter jets at the same time. This also refutes the statement by the commander of the U.S. Air Force that the F-47 is more cost-effective than the F-22. If the cost-effectiveness is higher, then why not develop 2 test models at the same time as before, and later choose the better one through competition? Obviously, the United States government did not practice the norms. Secondly, choosing Boeing is problematic. Why Boeing? We know that Lockheed Martin's technical reserves and records are relatively higher than any other company when it comes to developing fighter jets. Boeing is far behind, but now the result is that Boeing won the bid, Lockheed Martin failed? What kind of company is Boeing? In recent years, Boeing 737 MAX has failed in the field of civil aviation and has completely lost economic equity returns. What happened to Boeing Starship in aerospace? It is known to everyone that the planned 8-day project was delayed to 285 days and they had to rely on Musk's Dragon spacecraft to bring the 2 astronauts back. We can see that whether such a project succeeds or fails, it is Boeing's business. This is equivalent to completely allowing Boeing to have veto power over any rejections from the USA government or general public. And at the same time, the United States has handed over the fate of the U.S. sixth-generation fighter jets or air supremacy on future battlefields, or the fate of the United States as a whole, to Boeing through a single project. This demonstrates that either there is serious corruption within the United States or that history repeated itself again like 2008. Boeing is too big to fail. The United States has learned that it simply cannot afford the collapse of Boeing. Assume this scenario: Boeing goes bankrupt. France's Airbus becomes the world's #1 civilian aircraft manufacturer, and China's Comac becomes a powerful competitor, ranking in second place and maybe even becoming #1 in the future. Meanwhile, the United States government is distressed at locating cash funds, and there is no way for the Trump administration to window dress a balance on its financial balance sheet after decades of overspending by previous administrations. But why should Trump still gamble on one company like this? On the one hand, Boeing cannot close down. On the other hand, when will the sixth-generation aircraft be developed? We don't know. What is tested in the wind tunnel does not count as a finished prototype, and the Air Force needs real samples. The beautiful computer-generated photo of F-47 is appealing, but it is only a photo. Not even a convincing PowerPoint presentation. Now the whole world knows that the United States is not far ahead but far behind China's two sixth-generation aircrafts. China's Chengdu 36 and Shenyang's J-50 prototype aircrafts have been tested at least twice, and China may have developed 7th-gen fighter jet with aerospace cruising capability somewhere already. Mainstream media in the United States simply do not dare to tell the people about this truth. The Pentagon, the Department of Defense, now knows better than anyone else. If they don't work hard from now, the United States will lose the right to define sixth-generation aircraft. But what is even more frightening is that in the future battlefield, the United States will completely lose its air superiority and thus its battlefield advantage. Finally, why is the new fighter design named F-47? Just because 47 is a much larger number than China's J-36? I don't think so. Oh. Because Trump is the 47th President of the United States. I sincerely hope that this NGAD project will succeed. Otherwise it will be a joke in American military history. I bet that F-47 will not have a successful prototype flight test within 5 years, and the finished near mass-produced F-47 jet will not be delivered to the U.S. Air Force within 10 years. Let's revisit this subject in 2030 and 2035 to check my projection.